Turn the music off. Because it'll pick up on this.
Mm-hmm. And then what?
We'll demonetize everything.
All right, we already have 8 people on. All right, guys, we're rolling.
Okay.
Come on,
You want me
Brian.
to hook this?
We're getting set up, guys. It's our
Oh, there
first
it is.
deal.
Yep, it's on.
Got Abe here, as you can see. Josh over there. We got the guys from OBR. We got a lot of stuff to talk about tonight. It's our first YouTube Live. We're going to let it propagate a little bit. Let it build up, get a little audience. Let's,
Hey, Abe, I did mute that so we don't get.
Okay, yeah, you don't want that
Yeah, that's why it's muted over there.
I'm gonna do that with this also. You guys are
yeah, there we are. Look.
There you are.
You can see what's going on.
17 watching.
All right, guys.
Say hi, people.
Hi, people.
Yeah, don't forget, if you guys chime in, we'll know who's there. You guys can say hello, ask a question.
Also, somebody, how's the volume on there? Like the, can they hear you?
Yeah, if somebody can, I see Dean Armstrong and Jay. Can you guys hear us just fine? Somebody could let us know if the audio's good. That would be fantastic.
I think they're telling your audio is horrible. Yes, it's good.
All right,
All
that's a
right.
plus.
A bit
That's a
distant.
plus.
See, it's a bit distant.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's what I'm worried about.
What's that?
sounds
The audio's a
great.
bit distant.
So just talk a little louder. You should be fine.
Yeah, but they can hear us in Alabama.
Well,
You think you're that loud?
could be that loud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We could always roll the cart a little bit closer, but I think we'll be all right.
Camera guy sounds great. That's me. Because I'm standing right next to the phone.
Yeah.
Abe's got the projecting voice.
It's all
I
good.
have coffee.
Coffee's good.
We'll just give it a few minutes.
Hot too.
6:30, so we get some more people on here, and then we could get started.
Yeah, we told everybody we'd start at 6:30, so we're building up. Think about some questions you might want to ask Brian or myself. If you're already on,
If you have a question now, you can ask.
yeah, feel free. We can ask something while we get going. But the topics tonight, like we said, we're going to talk about Godzilla. We're going to talk about a little bit of the history of 5.0 racing, how it got started. We're going to show you some really neat stuff from the 5.0 era. Right, Brian?
Yep, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. And we got a great crew here. We got our producer Abe behind the scenes. We got Josh over there. That's his car behind us, twin turbo action. And we got the OBR guys here working on a pro-charged 7.3 Godzilla that's on Brian's dyno.
Yep. Yeah, no, we're getting anxious to get that thing done, ready to pull again. It's the first intercooled motor that we've had on there.
Right?
So, well, I shouldn't say it's the first external plumbed intercooled. We, of course, ran the Whipple that has built-in intercooler, but this one's got the external air plumbing. So, to get that all tightened up so it doesn't blow apart when we try to do a pull.
You do have a question from somebody asking if there will be an aluminum 7.3.
Will there be? Yeah, you know, the one thing I remember is I retired from Ford at the end of 17, so my information isn't current, but even if I did know and it wasn't publicly announced, I couldn't say. So either I don't know, but if I did, I couldn't tell you.
Oh.
So,
Even if you killed us.
well, that would be pretty brutal, but yeah. I can tell you that there was an aftermarket company that I've talked to that is interested in doing an aluminum block, but as you can imagine, that's a very, very expensive ticket to tool.
Oh, yeah.
So my advice to that person was, I think, yes, there's going to be a market for it, but I think there's going to be a market sooner for cylinder heads and intake manifolds.
Right.
As the stock block is a really stout piece, it'd be nice to get the 100 pounds off the nose, but again, a lot of these small tire cars, you got to put a lot of weight on the nose to make them go down the track without doing big wheelies. So, you know, they need a bit of time to get the customer base up to
It's
return
new.
on their
It's still
investment.
pretty new.
Yeah.
I gotta throw a shout out to my man Can I Be Frank? That's his handle on YouTube and on Google because he comments on almost all the videos that we put up. He's a big supporter of the channel. And then it looks like Al Wolfe is on here. You know a guy named Al Wolfe?
My brother,
I know.
my big brother.
I know. So shout out to Al Wolfe. Let's see who else we got. Unity Motorsports Garage, another big supporter of the channel. I'm assuming most of you guys have subscribed already. So
If you haven't, hit the subscribe button.
Yep. What do we got so far, Abe? You got the countdown. 41 watching. That's a pretty good start.
Yeah, and we
And
haven't
it's,
started yet. We have 4 minutes before we officially start.
Yep. We're gonna get cracking at exactly 6:30. We want to just kind of chill a little bit. Like I said, this is our first time doing a live video, so a lot of prep went into today. Hopefully it goes off smooth. We did a test earlier today. We tried different camera angles. We got our little studio here set up in Willis, Michigan, which is out near Milan. This is Brian's personal shop where he builds the engines, the 7.3 Godzillas, and various projects, and works on his race car.
Yeah, yep, this is the this is the place. So this is, as we say, the shop in the shop. So it's about a 1,200 square foot within a 6,000 square foot building. So it's air conditioned and heated, so we can work year round in comfort. Because the older you get, the more the heat gets to you in the summer, and the cold gets to you in the winter. So we need to be comfortable.
Yep. Hey, we got any questions?
You have a couple of questions.
Valve question. Let's do that one.
Yeah.
Hey, wait. Yo, Ken is watching. My man, Yo, Ken. What's up, dude?
Good.
Kenny Mealy.
Mm-hmm. I knew who Yo Ken is.
I would
Well,
hope
who
so.
doesn't? Who doesn't?
Exactly. Yo, Ken is watching. The Muscle Mustangs Answer Man and Cobra Jet Racer.
Yep.
Go ahead, Abe.
Oh, here's one that just came up from Mario Brothers. Where do you guys test if Milan is closed?
Well, first, US 131, Norwalk, Dragway 42. There's a lot of places to test, but Milan, my humble opinion, again, I have no inside information, but there was enough interest in that track when it was being sold. Supposedly there was a new buyer agreed and the price agreed, and it's going through the courts. So I fully expect Milan to be up and operational in 2022.
Well, the guy asked where you test.
Like I said, if it's that, US 131,
Oh, I
Dragway
heard you say that.
452, Norwalk, down south. I mean, we'll chase the weather to test.
My sister is giving me a little crap for not giving her a shout out. I just saw your name pop up. I don't, until you chime in with a question, we don't really know who is liking or watching. So shout out to my sister Daryl. She's out there. Hopefully she talked to my dad and walked him through the process of clicking the button to get it to go live. So hi, Dad. I hope you're watching too.
I think some people want to see you guys on the tree and see who's faster over there. Who's got a better car?
On the tree.
I'll
I would lose bad and embarrass myself.
I'll let you off easy this time.
Next time we do this, we'll have that wired out. How about that?
That'd be great. We should.
And we'll do a little tree challenge, and we'll have to have something on the line, like you got to chug a beer, or no, you'll kill me in that.
Jack Daniels.
We
Shots,
proved
we
last
do
night I
shots.
cannot handle my Jack Daniels. I had one, and it was one, and I was done. One and done.
It was
One
a
and
long
done.
day.
It was a long day.
Yeah, it was a long day in your defense.
Yep. So somebody had, hey, can you roll back? What was the question about valves that Brian had? And then we're at 6:29, so we'll get started after this one question. There was somebody had a question about valves on the 7.3.
You don't see it on yours?
Oh, let me
No
take a
wonder.
peek
Can
here.
you scroll?
Yep.
Oh.
For Brian, do both valves have a side cant, and how much? Why was it so small compared to a Cleveland?
Yeah, it's a 1.8 degree cant, 8.8 degree valve angle. So on both intake and exhaust. To be frank, the cylinder head design, I didn't really micromanage this, right? We gave overall vehicle objectives, and the guys had a very, very compressed timeline to do this engine because originally, and we'll get into this a little later, the engine started out as a much different animal before it came in block for the 2020 Super Duty.
Right.
So meeting the objectives that they met, I think were really good. And I mean, I don't want to sound defensive of anything on it because everything can be improved. But when I was racing Pro 5.0, when I ran my C302 B cylinder heads, those flowed like 345 CFM, which was really good at the time. Stock cylinder heads, stock valve angles, stock cant, no welding on the heads. These flowed 395
Nice.
with our stage 3 setup. So the heads are pretty good, and we made about 1,700 horsepower with those stock head castings, with a supercharger, of course.
Right. Which is, you know, the power's been very respectable, both NA and supercharged so far. And let's face it, the thing's still in its infancy.
Oh.
And we're still using stock block and stock head cast. So all the aftermarket companies haven't even jumped on these heads yet.
Yeah, absolutely. And to be fully transparent, I mean, there hasn't been a ton of work done on these engines, right? I've been doing quite a bit. I know Mass Motorsports got some offerings now, but Anthony DeSoma, Tony Bishop, Chris Holbrook, they haven't. Kazi, none of those guys have even started to play with these. And as you get more and more engine builders really looking to unlock the performance potential, you're going to see some really, really big numbers.
And just like in racing, one person finds something and then everybody else picks up on it. And then another guy finds something and everybody else improves on that. And engines develop and evolve over time, whether it's, a 302, a LS, a small block Chevy. But I digress.
Yes.
Because it is
3032.
It's 6:32. It's time to get rolling. We got a nice little audience started, which we were that was one of the things. This is our first YouTube live video, so we were wondering, how it would be received. So I'm REVan Evan Smith, former Muscle Mustangs and Fast Forwards magazine, and now editor of Drag Racing Edge magazine. We'll talk about that in a minute. To my right is the legendary Brian Wolfe. His resume is longer than the Bible. When it comes to Fords, he's done it all. Ford engineer at many levels, director of Ford Performance, involved in the Cobra Jet, involved in the 7.3, long race history yourself, starting from the humble beginnings of bolting some parts on a car that we're going to show you some neat stuff that has to do with, all the way to Pro 5.0 and then beyond and to your current racing, which we'll talk about. So let's get cracking, Brian.
Sure.
A little bit of house cleaning to do. I want to just introduce Drag Racing Edge magazine to you guys. For those and girls who have not seen it yet, this is the newest thing that I've been working on. It's a 98-page, thick stock, color magazine, all about drag racing, covering everything.
49 Merc.
49 Mark, Craig Sullivan's car on the cover. You can go online, check out the Drag Racing Edge Facebook, and from the Facebook you can go directly to the link to subscribe. It's 6 times a year, $24 a year, and that's a pretty good value, right?
Absolutely. I subscribe, a paying subscriber of the magazine. I think it's a good value. And the thing I like about the magazine too is so much available online today. It does, people can look stuff up, right? But there's a lot of coverage in there of things that you typically won't find online.
That's what we're trying to do.
And it does cover so many aspects of drag racing. I mean, it's very wide now, right? From, the conventional and NHRA stuff to, the no prep stuff, right? And everything in between.
Exactly.
So, trying to cover all that stuff in one place and get the inside stories is pretty cool.
Absolutely. So check that out. We'll even maybe talk about that a little bit more in the broadcast. Next, I got to thank my man Abe behind the scenes. Abe, real quick, pop over here. Abe does so much for the REVan Evan channel, REVan Media, helps me with Drag Racing Edge. Without that guy, dead in the water with the videos, the car builds, so much stuff. He's on kind of behind the scenes tonight. He's going to follow along with the questions. He's going to go through and help us out and stay on topic.
He really does it all. You're just kind of the figurehead.
He is, I am. We're like, if you ever saw Wheeler Dealer,
He's the mouth.
I'm the mouth, and he's the guy that does all the hard work.
That's pretty good, analysis.
Yep. And then, so the last thing is the topics. What are we going to talk
I
about
was going to say
tonight?
kind of like Gap and Roush. You're kind of Gap and he's kind of Roush.
I'm not Gap.
Okay.
Because Roush hates Gap, I think. That's a whole other thing. We're not getting into this. We're not getting into this. The topics for tonight, because we want to keep everybody entertained. Brian may be singing later, depending on what's in his cup. We don't know.
Black coffee, there'll be no singing tonight.
So the topics, Godzilla, we're going to talk about 7.3. We're going to talk about some of the development stuff, some of the stuff Brian's been working on currently, and then we're going to jump into 5.0 Mustang stuff, which is what a lot of you guys and girls are here to see. The history, we're going to show you some neat stuff. So why do you say we just get started? Brian, I'm going to
Sure.
turn it over to you. 7.3, how did it happen?
Yeah, 7.3, really interesting story behind that. So it started, really as a fuel economy program. You people that are familiar with Fords remember the really good V10 that we had for many, many years with the 3 valve. And with the new CO2 regulations for what was called the dynamometer cert. So dynamometer cert is when we sell an incomplete vehicle. So like a F-Series without a bed on the back that gets like a U-Haul top put on it, or a motorhome, etc. Those engines are emission certified on the dyno. And the CO2 laws were getting more and more stringent. And we would have had to put either an enormous amount of money in the V10 or do something different.
What's an enormous amount of money?
Hundreds of dollars. And it was already expensive.
Hundreds of dollars?
Per unit.
Oh, per unit.
Yeah, per
Okay.
unit. Per unit. So with that, the V10 when it first started, because we had the 5.4 and the V10 was only 2 more cylinders, so it had common pistons, common valves, and it was off that large volume of 5 to 800,000 units a year. So the V10 was very cost effective at the time.
Right.
When the 5.4 went away, and now we've got a very low volume V10, the price gets very expensive on that application. So they started to say what they were going to do, and the program really started with a variant of the 6.2 liter, the 6.2 liter overhead cam, kind of reminiscent of the 427 single overhead cam engine. However, truth be told, I was never a big fan of that engine because it was very, very large, pretty complex. And I'm a guy that looks at the metrics. I mean, again, I love Ford, brand loyal, but like anything in life, you've got to have a set of standards and not just say this is good or this or bad depending on what it is.
Because emotion gets in the way.
Too much motion gets in the way. So you look at that thing, and it's a very large engine, and you really can't say it outperformed the competition in the truck market.
Right.
So when they wanted to do a 6.9 liter, which really wanted to be a 7.3 liter, but we had to raise the deck height because of the increased stroke, a 7.3 single overhead cam wouldn't fit in the Super Duty. It was going to be too big. So they had to bring it down to 6.9 liter and weren't quite getting all the fuel economy they wanted. And that was before I came back from Europe, running European Powertrain to be the director of global engine engineering. So when the program came across my desk for approval, as we're in Ford and all major companies, you have gateways you go through for approvals, for cost and everything. And because it was an all-new capacity program, we were putting in all-new tooling to support over 250,000 units a year. It was a very expensive program. I can't talk numbers, but think hundreds of millions of dollars to capacitize a plant. And I just went to the team and I said, is this really the best way to invest that much of the company's money? And I asked them to benchmark the competition and just convince me it was the right way to go. And as they did that, we ended up with, well, we really don't need the overhead cams. Yeah, we can put the cam in the block. Yeah, we can take weight out. Yes, we can take complexity out between the different variants because now the engine got a lot smaller. And so we went from a 6.9 liter single overhead cam to a 7.3 cam and block motor that's really meeting all the
Which is sitting right there.
Yep, which is, we got one right here, which meant all the metrics came in significantly under the original program objectives for cost, both investment and variable costs. So it worked out
Right. And then serviceability in the field, right?
The one comment that one of the engineers made is, it's the first time in a long time I can open the hood and see the ground, because the engine may get a lot more compact. But in today's vehicles, let's be frank. I mean, even to do like Ken Bajonas at Palm Beach Dyno, they put our stage 1 heads and cam in an engine in a new 2020 truck, and there's a lot of work. Because even though it's a lot smaller, getting the cooling system out, getting it apart, getting it back together. It wasn't like a one-day job back in '65 when you had a 289 and want to swap the cam.
Right. Well, I think obviously there's a lot of F-Series trucks out there with the 7.3, but the thing to me that's unique about this engine is it's really the first time that an engine has hit the market as a brand new engine, and immediately it's, for at least for our purposes, it's being used for hot rodding, engine swaps, and racing by a lot of people, who are never going to buy an F-250 with that engine. They're
Yeah.
they're only worried about this engine, and yet it doesn't come in a Mustang.
Yes. Yeah, I think a couple comments on that. Yeah, I think that there's a lot, because it is a pretty compact package, and especially like when you do something like the Indy Power Products front drive on it, which really brings that front accessory drive in really tight. You know, it fits in a lot of vehicles pretty easy. They're doing like an old Bronco, old F-Series, old Mustang. It's nice to have a Ford and Ford swap.
Absolutely.
And, you know, the engine, I mean, Ford Performance, I think the crate motors are around $7,000 retail, and I think Summit sells it for under that. We, you know, would sell that, of course, for less than that is Holbrook Racing Engines, who I deal with a lot, sells the crate engines for a pretty good price. So, I mean, you get a brand new motor. And one thing I want to say about power ratings, though, that I think is important, when an engine builder such as myself, or pretty much any engine builder out there, when we report horsepower, we correct what's called standard temperature and pressure,
Right.
which is kind of sea level correction factor on a 60-degree day, with no parasitic losses. So we don't have a front accessory drive, we don't have exhaust systems, we don't have air cleaners on it. When the factory rates it, they rate it with a full front and accessory drive, air cleaner, exhaust system,
Belt-driven water pump.
belt-driven water pump, and alternator turning but not charging, full belt accessory load. So when you do it that way, and then also they correct to a different atmospheric condition,
Which is generally worse than.
which is definitely worse. It's definitely not sea level, and it's like 77 degrees Fahrenheit. So that correction factor alone is about 4.5%.
Right.
So long story short, you take a motor out and run it with dyno headers, stock engine, you put premium fuel in it. It's a 500 horsepower motor.
Gotcha. We got a question here. Let's see here, America Lansky. Do you guys think the Godzilla will make it in the Raptor or F-150? Is it only the F-250?
As far as again, you know, being retired, I mean, my opinion is it's, you know, only F-250, 250, 350 Super Duty stuff.
Right. You know, being that you can get a Coyote-powered F-150, I think that platform is still probably, and all the wiring and cooling and everything is already in an F-150. That's probably the engine that we'll continue to see in the F-150 would be my guess. Again, I don't 100% know from Ford, but that's my guess.
Yeah, it's just we're just speculating. Yeah.
So what do you say we skip gears a little bit and talk 5-liter Mustangs, and let's jump right into showing people some neat stuff, because I think they've been going for 15 or 20 minutes.
Okay.
And I think let's, first of all, I think by the end of the night, we're going to give away a signed connecting rod from Brian and a blower belt. I think we'll randomly pick somebody who's made a comment, and we'll ship this to you. We'll just need your address. We'll let you know who that is, and somehow maybe we'll have just Josh pick a random name or something like that. That way me and Brian aren't playing favorites, or Abe. And we'll sign this thing and send it to you. And we also have a blower belt off of Brian's race car that we'll sign and give to you guys. So we'll put this off to the side for now.
Yeah, I think the way to do that, you know, we'll give your email address or something so they can send you their address confidentially to.
Right. Yeah. You don't want to be putting it out there, and
Right.
everybody will be sending you hate mail and stuff like that. So let's move Drag Racing Edge magazine to the side. We'll check that out later again. And if Abe, you would be so kind to bring prop number 1 into the scene.
Let's see if anyone knows what this is before you tell them.
Okay.
Any comments?
So
Anybody got a comment on
we'll
what
wait
that
for a
is?
comment and see. Actually, I'll bring it up to the camera. I don't know how good you can see it, but
Oh, they can see it.
you can see it.
They don't know what it is from that distance. They don't know what it is.
Good point.
It's a black
It's
box.
a black box.
So it's getting close. Come on.
Easy, you, come on.
He is right.
Warm, but not there.
Nope. Somebody's got to get it.
Okay. Well, I tell you what. We're going
Oh, close. Ed Holmberg, close.
close.
There it is. Frogman. Frogman.
RPN extender.
Yes.
Yes. So yeah, this is really a neat product, and this was the mindchild of a guy named Sam Guido, and Sam supported the red car when we started to race Pro 5.0, And Sam actually, one of his college projects was he designed an ECU. And we actually used that in the red car. It was a pretty complicated system because it was a one-off that he did and hard to
Right.
calibrate. But you know, he supported me at the track with that. But back in the day, now this is like 89, 90, 91, you know, people say, I just want to get around the rev limiter.
Right. You know, let me stop you right there for 1 second.
Right.
So, I know you're gonna tell the backstory on this, but I'm gonna tell the backstory.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's 1986. Ford switches, of course, we all know about the CFI, but I don't even talk about CFI.
Right.
Ford switches to port fuel injection. 1986 on the Mustang GT and the 50LX. And in that moment, hot rodding was dead. GM had the TPI, Ford had its system. Mopar didn't even have a rear-wheel drive car at the time. They had that Daytona Turbo Z, which was pretty cool. But it didn't have a carburetor anymore. How are you going to tune the engine? Nobody knew. So a lot of people really, truly thought hot rodding was over, kind of like what we're dealing with electric cars now. Thought it was dead. And then, so companies started making parts little by little. And this is one of the very first aftermarket, even though it came from Ford parts, to allow you to tune a fuel-injected car. So go ahead, Brian.
Yep. So, you know, with that, so with the red car, you know, everyone's saying, I would just want to get around that rev limiter. What do I do?
Which was 6250.
Yeah, I don't know if it was that high.
Yep.
Okay,
6250.
So, so Sam and I were talking. I said, Sam, you know, people want to get around the rev limiter. So, what could we do? And Sam came up with a brilliant idea of I'm going to intercept the signals from the ECU, and as soon as it goes over 4,000 RPM, we'll take over. So that way, I'm off the emission rules. So I'm not violating any you know, CARB or EPA rules. I'm leaving that all alone. But beyond 4,000, I'm sending signals back to the ECU, letting it think the engine's commanding 4,000, and I'm going to send signals to the spark and to fuel and to the RPM limit.
Right.
So with this, it controls two things. It controls air-fuel ratio. It's got two knobs, one for air fuel.
Actually, this is an early one. It doesn't even have the knobs on it.
Yeah, yeah. So, yep, there's two knobs, one for air fuel and one for RPM. Sam said, should we put a spark knob on there? And I said, no, because people will get carried away with spark. They'll just start turning up.
Yep.
I said, if they want to change spark, they can turn the distributor. So, so that's what that ended up being. And I know they sold a lot of them, and it really helped people get around the problem in a very, very simplistic way. Two little knobs, air fuel, RPM, where you go.
Yep. I see a couple guys chiming in about the Anderson Ford PMS. Yes, it kind of did the same thing as this. It gave you just that little bit of control for that little bit of tuning to bypass the rev limiter and to do a little bit of spark and fuel mapping management. And then somebody else, Troublemaker 427 is chiming in. Tony and Neil on Cars Illustrated Magazine showed us all this in the beginning. Cars Illustrated Magazine and Muscle Mustangs, really Cars Illustrated was my inspiration for wanting to be an automotive journalist. I just drooled over that magazine. I thought that, you know, and still do, that Tony and Neil walked on water. Those guys are fantastic. The stuff they did back then really was ahead of its time. And Steve Collison, RIP,
Yep.
who gave me my first work in the business. Those three guys right there, and then along came Jim Camposano, and at the same time, you guys at Ford were doing your thing. So, all right, this is prop number one. We're going to move to prop number two, because after that, from Ford came something that, to this day, is probably one of the most revered pieces that the guys at Ford Performance, Ford Racing, SVO have ever come up with, and that is the GT40 intake.
Yeah.
Brian, how did this thing get developed?
Yeah, this was really interesting part. So, you know, back a little bit more of the backstory on the 5-liter Mustang. A guy named Jim Clark was the department manager of the 5-liter
Right.
passenger car engine group. And Jim was, you know, a performance enthusiast. He was a maverick. You know, I still talk to him, you know, today. He's pretty much exactly 20 years older than I am. Super, super good guy. And what happened was, every year that he was in that position, the 5-liter got a little bit better. But even before that, Mustang sales were pretty good in 79. Then in 80, they were kind of tapering off. And then they had the turbo, and in 81, not so good. And they're saying, geez, what are we going to do to get interest in the Mustang again? And Clark said, let me put the 302 back in it. And they said, and at that point in time, Jim had accountability for the engine calibration certification,
Right.
the engine design, the dynamometer development. He had the whole thing as a department manager. Today at Ford, it's so bifurcated, you got to be up to the vice president level to have that. But again, you have it all across.
He had a lot rested on his shoulders.
A lot on his shoulders. And his bosses didn't want to do it because there's a lot of risk there and they didn't think a lot of reward, right? So not only did he put the 5-liter back in that was in it in 79, but he also made it a HO version.
Right.
So his rules to the guys were, as long as the part was in production before, we can go do it. And he got that in production in about 9 months.
But did he build one on the sneak?
Oh yeah, he built one on the side, and that was Jim's MO for everything that he took forward on every year of the improvement. They go, well, that's real nice, Clark, but how are you going to make that happen? And how do you know it's going to do that? And he goes, well, here's the keys, would he like to drive it?
Right.
And
I think you told me that a long time ago that he built one on the side and
Yep.
actually let them drive it.
Absolutely. So when Jim was there, so 82, the engine was in at 83. They put the 4-barrel, and they put the 5-speed in it from the single from the 3-speed plus 1 in it. So every year they were doing something.
Roller cam.
And then the HO in 87. And then he wanted to do the next level, which was the GT40. A guy named Wally Bieber, who was the kind of head on this, the engineer was working on it. And what happened, Jim moved to go do the modular engine program.
Right.
And when you're like I like Jim, like you said, there's a lot of stress if failure happens. A lot of risk, not a lot of reward.
Right.
So everyone remembers the guy that fucks up. No one remembers the hero, it seems like,
Right.
the way things go in corporate America. So once he left, he slowed down on that. And a guy named Hank Dershin was a good friend of Wally's. Hank Dershin was a motorsport guy, super guy, and then Ford Racing. And Wally called Hank and said, hey, I got this thing all designed and it works pretty good. You guys want to put it in the catalog? It's already kind of engineered, and that's how it got in the catalog before it got back into the cars in a longer period of time.
And so this is not just a GT40 intake. This is a special one because this is the first one that went on your red car. Maybe not the first one ever built, but this is the actual intake that ran on Brian's red 86, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, this was the one that because I had kind of a cool deal with the Ford Performance guys was. Because of the exposure we're getting in the magazines and that helped part sales, they allowed me to have parts, to test and then, get reported on, and that helped a ton. So this was the intake. This intake was last on the car when we went naturally aspirated about 1040s with a 331 cubic inch with a J302 cylinder head on it.
And now if you walk through a swap meet at a Ford event, or you go on eBay, these things go for ridiculous money. For a while, nobody cared because there were so many better intakes that came out and evolved after this. And even the design and the assembly of it is so different than what you'd find today because everything's either cast aluminum today, sheet metal, or composite. So the fact that this thing has a separate plenum, it's got 8 individual tubes, a flange, another deal here, and a flange for the throttle body, and a spacer. It's a lot of parts and pieces to put a manifold together. It's probably a relatively complex deal. And then the lower, which is the same as the 93 Cobra, but developed before the 93 Cobra. So these things go for $700-800, used looking like this at a swap meet. This particular one's probably worth a lot more, considering it came off your car. If an enthusiast or a collector really wanted to. I know a guy who collects Ford intake manifolds. I'm not going to say his name because he works at Ford.
Okay.
But he's got a crazy collection of Ford intakes. But we'll just leave that right there, and we will move on to prop number 3.
One feature we did on this was
Go ahead.
the standard fasteners for these middle tooth fasteners actually had long fasteners that
Correct.
went through. And we heated this up and kind of took a baseball bat, knocked it down there to open that up, and then put short little fasteners that were hard to get to.
On this
but-
particular one.
On this one, yeah.
Right, because it did have a kink right in the.
Yeah, it had two
in the-
kinks in it,
Yeah.
for the two fasteners, but now you kind of get under the
Not anymore.
And if you have an original lid
Mhm.
that came on there, so actually, and then one last tidbit about this intake. Let's see who can chime in. Okay, maybe we'll give the blower belt away to the first person who can say this is going to be an easy one. What's the only Ford vehicle that this intake manifold came on off the assembly line?
Well, that's not an easy one.
So it came on one Ford vehicle, this intake manifold or this style intake manifold, and the first person who chimes in gets the signed blower belt. That way it's easy. You
I'm
don't have to
waiting.
pick.
Okay.
Somebody said lightning,
Lightning.
lightning.
Dan Grippo was the first one to chime in. Ed Holmberg, you missed it by one spot.
All
But
right.
pretty good guys. Hey, we cracked 100 viewers too. That's pretty awesome.
Yep.
Thank you for watching. This is really neat. Abe's helping out. All right.
Seems pretty heavy.
So now we got intake number 2. And this is going to blow your mind because my mind is pretty much blown. When you see this thing, you're going to freak out. Also, would you look at that? We'll start with it this way so they can see the side. We'll talk about it and then we'll rotate it.
Sure.
All right, so we'll give it a second. Actually, you can't really see what it is. So can I turn it right on here or should we lift it?
No,
I'll
I
turn
don't
it.
want to scratch the table.
You don't worry about the table.
Thanks, Abe.
Abe, worried too much about the table.
All right, there we go.
I'm worried about your back.
I'm good.
All right. I will tell you, this is a dual plenum, dual throttle body intake to feed each side of the engine. That's about as far as I can take it. Brian, what is the story behind this concocted, wild-looking chunk of metal?
Yeah. Well, first, back then, you talked about people thought that when EFI came on, it was kind of into hot rodding, and everyone's taking the fuel injection off and putting a carburetor on and making it work. And one of the things that intrigued me was the fuel injection, right? And we kept trying to move the needle forward. So like that red car, was the first naturally aspirated car to go 11, 10s, and 9s in the quarter mile naturally aspirated with
Right.
not the first box body, late model Mustang to do that.
How excited what was the vibe at Ford? What was your vibe? Because you bought, even though you were a Ford employee, you bought an 86 GT, relatively stripped down with a stick for the purpose of going drag racing
Well, I did
or
have,
modifying.
yeah, well, even when I first bought it, probably the first 6 months, 8 months, didn't think of it.
Right.
And then it was, hey, this could be really fun to work with, the fuel injection, see how fast we could go and try different things.
So how was the vibe like? Let's dig into this thing.
For me, yeah, but I'd say at Ford, there's all different types. There's racers, there's guys that are just super brilliant engineers, but they would be just as happy, designing air compressors,
Right.
So,
But you always had big blocks, and you had fast street cars and race cars, and now you have this small block little Mustang.
yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. So yeah, I still have my first car, 428 Cobra Jet Fairlane,
Right.
and the best that car ever ran was like 1280s. I know there's a lot of ones that went quicker than that, but that was my own personal car. The first time I took the red car out, it went 1258 with the 302 in it, with the GT40 intake, 9-inch rear end, slicks. So I thought, wow, man, that was way too easy. And I think, to your point, that was like the switch for me that this is going to be a lot of fun and a lot easier. Because you just change the plugs in the 420 Cobra Jet was a bitch.
Oh, and when it comes to, real quick, 5-liter Mustangs, Ford did some critically key things to the 5-liter V8 from 85 up to really 93 to that car that really made a difference in performance. Number one, the biggest thing to me was the 335 or 337 first gear in the transmission. You go to the muscle car era, 240 first gear, 220 first gear, and that wasn't going to get it done with a small block. With the Mustang, you had lightweight, you had a good drag racing and even road racing type suspension, and then the stock long runner intake, which made tremendous torque for the engine size and for that era of car. So you had a couple key things that made the car feel really, really snappy for only having 225 horsepower. So
Yep.
take it away.
Yeah, so yes, back to this intake. So again, wanting to try different things. So we did have the idea with this is, if you're familiar with intake manifold dynamics and tuning, a 4-cylinder engine has good tuning because there's an even 180-degree separation between the firings. So you get that secondary tuning effect of the plenum along with the runner length and cross section.
Right.
So we said, well, hey, let's make a manifold that will let us do that. And Chuck Watson, the rest in peace, super gentleman.
Love Chuck Senior, man.
Yeah.
Love Chuck Junior
You're
too.
too. Yeah, absolutely.
Great dudes.
And Chuck, had this manifold made. This was a hammer formed runners where they made the runners out of steel and then hammer formed this around them, welded them together, and finished them.
So this is a Watson engineering piece.
It's a Watson engineering piece. And we ran that only for a year because we ran that with the J heads. We ended up going in the 9s with that, naturally aspirated, just dipping in. And but then the next year we switched to the C302 canted valve Cleveland style head, and we didn't really see enough benefit to make that next intake have that that secondary tuning, because again, as a race car, the tuning range we were in, we really didn't see the big impact that we thought it would.
And if you remember the GT40 that we just showed you, so single inlet, single plenum, feeding all 8 cylinders. This separates one side of the engine from the other.
Well, not really.
Or 8, 4 and 4 cylinders. Right?
Yeah, what this does is it's a center 2 from one bank, the outer 2 from the other bank, and with the firing order of the engine, it gives you that same 180-degree firing. So each plenum feeds 2 from each bank to give you that stuff.
Does it get rid of the 2 firing next to each other?
Yeah, they're all 180-degree apart. Right. Yeah, so you don't change the firing order, but again.
And you didn't use a flat plane crank.
No. It's just the draw of the one bank versus the other.
It's all about filling the cylinders.
All about filling cylinders.
So I think we'll probably have a couple questions about this intake. Let's take a look at what some of the folks are asking. This way we can talk about this a little bit more before we move on. Ed Hohenberg asked, was that the intake that used dual ECUs?
No, we didn't use these dual ECUs, or I didn't. Now someone else may have had built something similar and did it, but we did not use dual ECUs. No.
All right. Let's see. Andy Harmon. Inner and outer runners feed opposite banks. Evens out the breathing pulses. Yep, you are correct.
Yep.
No need for a flat plane crank. Excuse me. Trick Flow made a similar one. BBK had I don't know. BBK was dual throttle bodies, or I think it was also. I can't remember other BBK. There was a BXR, BBK. There was a lot of 5-liter intake designs in that early era that tried to, take advantage of the cross ramming effect and all that, and still fit under the relatively low hood of a Mustang.
Absolutely, yeah.
Let's see if we got any more. Don't forget to hit that like button. Yes, hit the like button, everybody, and subscribe also. Truck intakes. A lot of guys use truck intakes too.
Yeah, and some of the guys were cutting the runners short down, if I remember right, and kind of refabricating.
Yep. All right, let's move on to big plenums too, by the way.
Yeah, they were pretty good.
Abe's getting a workout.
It's pretty good.
All right, we're gonna move on to what are we? Prop number 4 now.
Yep.
And we got to remember to sign the blow belt for Dan Grippo. Now we're cooking with air right here.
Can I show a little bit of that?
Yeah.
Whoops.
Bolts flying all over the truck. Hold on. We got hardware.
That hardware. So you see the Watson Racing?
Yeah.
Yeah, Watson Engineering logo up top, all put into that thing. All right, Brian, I'm not going to say a word. This is your baby.
Okay, so once we went to the C3 style heads, we again weren't getting the big benefit from that. So this intake quite a bit simpler, common plenum, 2 big throttle bodies up front, and then all the runners of equal shape feeding that common plenum. So this intake, this was the one that was on the car with nitrous. We went with a 331 8200 deck height motor. We went like 860s with it.
What time frame? Let's talk a little bit of it.
91, 92.
91, 92?
Yeah.
Okay. So was this one of the I guess, forerunners of the box style intake? But you ran NA, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And with nitrous?
NA and nitrous, yeah. Yeah, we ran the
Okay.
copy car nitrous system and NA. I think we didn't make it into the 8s NA.
Okay.
9.0s we ran.
And this is another Watson engineering piece.
Yep.
I think before they even really went to the Watson Racing brand.
Oh yeah, way before that. Yeah, because
Wow.
again, this was probably built 1990,
Right.
91.
So after running the other intake and then switching to the Yates style head,
Mhm.
you wanted an intake. Why didn't you just go with like a typical single plenum or like a NASCAR style or that's funnel web deal or something like that?
Well, again, you always want to do your own thing,
Right.
and that's what we did. We built the intake that we wanted, that we thought would work the best for the car.
Right. So did you talk with Chuck? Was this like a Chuck Bryan design or?
Yeah, and Chuck, some of Chuck's guys at the time. I mean, obviously, you go in with an idea, but you're always best to listen to the input of, everybody you're working with, because, something may make it easier to make, something which then would make it, more to what know what you're getting. So you get a lot of great input from everybody involved, and then you just settle on a design and go for it.
Right. Now I noticed a couple interesting things about this intake manifold. One that sticks out to me is the fuel rail. It's just a steel welded one-off fuel rail, and you can't see from the back, but there's like dual vacuum regulators. You don't even have an adjustable fuel pressure regulator on this thing.
No, because again, with the computer, you're setting your air fuel and you're getting your feedback that way.
What were you using for a computer?
I was trying to think if I was still using SAMs or if I had already switched to a big stuff at that time. I don't remember, to be
You're getting old, man.
getting old.
So SVO throttle bodies with somebody's initials on them?
Yeah, the initials are a guy named Tom Warnholm. Tom, big car enthusiast, performance enthusiast, worked at the Rawsonville plant.
Mm-hmm.
And, back then, things were very expensive to tool, right? Do things special.
So you didn't have 3D printing?
No 3D printing. And at that time, Tom would figure out how to make the SVO parts for as low a overhead as possible. So in appreciation, the guys at SVO wanted to put his initials in their throttle bodies, the big ones.
I don't think they do that anymore.
Yeah, I don't know.
But it's still kind of cool.
Yeah.
What was the horsepower level and RPM range on this deal?
I didn't have dyno back then, so this is, like I said, last time we went out with this, the last configuration of the car, went 9.0s, we'd leave the line at 9,000 with the 2-speed glide, shifted at 9,500.
I know, but you're an engineer, so I know you calculated the horsepower in your head. 900?
Oh, no, it would have been nowhere near that. Probably in the 7s somewhere.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's still pretty good for back then NA.
Yeah.
Because most guys have gone to blowers or nitrous or...
Right. Yeah, and we ran it both ways. We ran it with, it was a 15-to-1 compression ratio motor, and
Right.
it was a pretty serious piece for the time.
Oh yeah, and at that time, the 5-liter movement was still just taking leaps and bounds.
Mm-hmm.
Products were hitting the market. I remember every Friday night in Englishtown, it was literally just Big Daddy Gutridge and Jimmy LaRocca and Craig Radovich and Lee Rudder, and everybody had their own little combo. Dave Zerlo, and it was just who could go the fastest. And you went to the fence, and then racing Jason with his car, and you went to the fence to watch just to see if a guy was going to run his own personal best. They were going to run the best ever. Who was going to be the first in the 9s? I remember one chilly Friday night. I think it was, and my brain is always scrambled with this stuff. It was Nitrous Pete or Craig, but somebody was the first, or Jimmy LaRocca was the first in the 9s. And they all hustled to the lanes because they knew whoever was going down the track first that night was probably going to get the 9-second run. And it was such an exciting time. But you got to remember, the base car made 225 horsepower. So the guys are making 6, 7, 800. I mean, not to take anything away from what anybody's doing with a GT500 now, because these people like Ken and my buddy Sam Lippincott and a bunch of others, the guys from Evolution, they're going, you know, 8s with these cars. But, you know, they make 7+ hundred horsepower, 800 horsepower at the crank to start. And yeah, they're winding them up to 1,000 or 1,500 or maybe even more than that.
Yeah.
And that's not an easy thing to do, especially with the DCT. But we took a 225 horsepower engine with a thin cast block, 2-bolt mains, you know, and I mean, ran these things within the edge of the life, sometimes past. And it was just such an exciting time. The magazines were covering what everybody did. You just couldn't wait to see the next magazine, whether it was Super Ford or Muscle Mustangs, all the shootouts. Let's talk about those shootouts.
Mm-hmm.
How did the original Pro 50 shootouts evolve, and what was your involvement?
Yeah, so you know, it was Super Ford magazine at the time, January 1990 issue.
Mm-hmm.
They had 3 cars that they featured in their in that issue, and Donald Farr was the editor, and there was my car, naturally aspirated.
Right.
There was Norman Gray, who ran a nitrous setup.
Yep.
In a convertible, and there's a guy from Florida with a supercharger, centrifugal supercharger, Grandpa T they call him.
Oh yeah.
And I hadn't seen him after that issue. He didn't get the bug like Norman and I got. But then the following year, Super Ford came up with, hey, we're going to do a shootout. We're going to take, you know, people that we're aware of that we think are going to be really fast. We're going to bring them together, 10 of them, and see how they do.
Right.
And that's how, you know, kind of how it took off. In that first shootout, Stormer Norman was fastest. He had Roush built car. Steve Brubeck was driving it for him, and they just dipped in the 9s with that.
Right. And
we went, I think, 11. We were the second quickest naturally aspirated car at the time with the GT40 stuff, and I think we went like 11, 12 at 121.
I was just flying back then.
Yeah, that was
So we got a question from Race Gas Smells Good. That's the handle. And that's my buddy Justin. Check out his YouTube channel. He does a lot of 5-liter stuff. Great dude out on the West Coast. Writes for me for Drag Racing Edge magazine. Make sure you subscribe to his YouTube channel. Brian, he asked, who's been quicker in the quarter mile? There's no way that I've beaten you because you've been way quicker than me.
The quickest I've been was with the heads up car that we ran, the big block, 5-inch bore space Hemi, New Edge Mustang. We went 758, 183 in that.
Yeah, you got me. I knew you would have me covered. My quickest is 820 at 162 or 3. A fun ride, but I still haven't gotten that 7-second time slip yet. So that one's to you.
And then in the black car, we had an X275 car that we ran. That was a street car that was a bought off used car lot in Detroit. Mm-hmm. And we ran that as an X275 and went 430s with that in the 8th final.
Yeah, Brian is definitely a more seasoned and more experienced drag racer than I am. That's
I'm
for sure.
more experienced.
Unless you're running stock eliminator.
Yeah,
you might have something on you there.
No, definitely. Yeah. Can't run a full tree and drive both ends of the track. That's I can't do it.
I think you can.
I can't. Just not capable.
All right, we're gonna move this intake out of the way, and I don't know. What do you say? We talk a little bit about development and horsepower on the 7.3. We've talked a lot about 5-liter stuff and the history, and you know, judging by the comments, we'll have to see. Maybe we'll come back and do another live video just talking about one specific topic. But I don't know. You got like a cylinder head, or what do we got for? Let's show people like a 7.3 cylinder head. Maybe if you have a ported one or something like that we could bust out. I'll put
I tell you what, why don't you dance for a second? Dance for 35 seconds. I get through one.
Well, Evan's gonna dance for a second.
I'm gonna dance. Abe's gonna come on screen with me for a second. We'll chat it up with Abe. We'll bring in Abe. We don't need the bolts. Josh, bolts for the.
I think I'm gonna take this home with me.
Right. So this is Abe Tang.
Let's go.
Special Agent Tango, we like to call him. He's got many nicknames, and he's the man behind the build of
We're building the '68 Cyclone with the 7.3. Not this 7.3, different 7.3.
Yep, we got a different 7.3, but so far we put the front suspension in, and I say we, I mean you.
Well, you know, you're there.
I know, I'm there hanging out, shooting video, cleaning, doing all the grunt work, or some of it.
We're still gonna do the rear suspension, which is gonna be the Heights 4-link with the 9-inch rear.
Yep.
So that's gonna be fun.
And tomorrow morning, we're driving up to Lansing, which is about an hour and 20 minutes north of here.
Yes.
And if all goes well, we're buying a car. But we're not going to tell you what that car is yet. We're just going to have to stay tuned.
It's a Ford product.
It's a Ford product.
It's not a Ford though.
Technically, no. It has 4 doors and a tailgate.
Oh,
But it's not a pickup truck.
You told him.
Nope, not saying another word. All right, Brian's back.
Go ahead.
So airflow is important, as Brian will tell you. And if you want to make horsepower, I don't care what you do, you got to have a good cylinder head.
Absolutely.
Brian, what's so awesome about this cylinder, other than the fact that I think I could fit my fist through the intake port down into the combustion chamber?
Yeah, and Yogi, people were asking about this versus a Cleveland, but this is a stock head casting. There's no welding done to it. This head is done by Visner Engine Development that we work with them on. This is our stage 3 head. So this is a copper beryllium seats, bronze guides. Takes
I think
2.
it's blocking us. Or you.
You block me. I mean, give people a break so they don't have to look at that.
I'm gonna lay it down.
Okay. So this takes a 2.25 intake valve, 1/700 exhaust valve, and then the one thing, if you're gonna lay it down, let me do a couple things here.
Brian's gonna take control.
We're take control. So one of the things on this is you can see all the pedestals are machined off. So this is set up for a rocker stand setup with the Jessel shaft-mounted rockers that we run on this, and we run it with a mechanical roller cam. Militia Products in Jackson, Michigan does our camshafts, our mechanical roller camshafts, they're tool steel. So that's one of the other features on this head. The other thing, and I'm turning over, and I don't know if you can see it, but this is fire ring, right? So it's got the flame hoops in it. So this is a set of cylinder heads we're putting on the second motor we're doing for the black car. So this is going to have copper head gaskets. It's going to be methanol. It's going to be dry decked. So it's a pretty serious piece. This flows, as I mentioned earlier, just under 400 CFM. So for stock head casting, it's a pretty stout piece.
Awesome. All right, we got a little bit of housekeeping. A couple questions. Ed Hohenberg asks, is that 7.3 block filled? And the answer is yes.
Yeah, the block we have over here is filled. We also put a piece in the cooling slot between the bores. There's a little saw cut between there.
Right.
And then the receiver group just barely touches that piece that we put in there. It has bush lifters, it's set up for Jessel keyed lifters. It has roller bearings for the camshaft, and it has Calais billet main caps.
We'll roll that over in a minute and show you some of the goodies, or maybe attempt to bring the phone over. Yeah, because somebody also asked what's in the coolant passages. So that would be concrete, hard block.
Hard block.
Tell us about your 7.3 swap Mercury. We'll get to that in a little bit. Block filled. Cyclone's going to be sweet. All right, Race Gas Smells Good asks, max effort 7.3. What kind of RPM do you think it can reliably turn?
Well, it's a good question. And again, it all depends on the parts you have in it, right? So the engine that we had in our drag car, we have turned that 9,000 RPM.
Yep.
And I don't really see a weak link. I mean, when you talk turning RPMs, you gotta have good valve train, got good connecting rods, good pistons. This block is pretty incredible. I mean, all my small block Ford stuff, as I say, conventional small block Ford 438 bore space stuff.
Right.
Even the aftermarket blocks, you'd pull the main caps off after you ran that, and you'd always see that fretting of the cap. This thing, even after all the running I did with the Whipple supercharged variant of the motor, I mean, those caps were mint. It was just unbelievable for me to see, you know. But again, 6-bolt mains, cross-bolted deep skirt block. Yeah, it did its job.
Awesome. So we got a couple comments, questions. My lovely wife, just says Dancing with the Stars. So I don't know if that means she wants us to dance, which that ain't gonna happen, ain't gonna happen. Or maybe she's just watching Dancing with the Stars. I don't know what that means. That's some kind of weird code. I don't understand it.
FC and
Yeah,
Abe tango.
I don't know.
We can go get you guys a rose, and you and Abe can tango.
Not gonna happen.
I'm good.
I
I'm good.
don't dance. I don't propose to dance.
Okay.
That's not happening. The Samster from Canada tuning in. Hello, Samster. How you doing, buddy? Let's see. How much for that block?
Yeah, the block, the stock block you buy from the Ford dealer, they're about $800, $850, something like that. You know, and then everything else done to this block, I don't care if it's a FE, a small block Ford, an LS, conventional small block Chevy, it doesn't matter. It's all gonna be the same price. There's nothing that is more expensive about doing it to this. So you put, you know, so in this block, we've probably got about another, I don't know, $3-ish grand in boring, honing, doing the plates, the hard blocking, the main, remachining for the main caps, the roller cam bearings. I mean, it's just all off the shelf stuff. It's just, you know, machine shop labor.
ARP Racing 09. Great listening to Ford Living Legends.
No,
Thank you.
thank you.
That's pretty nice of you to say. We appreciate you guys watching, because without an audience, we would just be talking to Abe and Josh.
That's right. And they get bored.
They would get bored really quickly. We've cracked 120 viewers.
That's good.
That's pretty awesome for our first time doing this. Let's scroll down, see we got some other questions here. What do you think? What do we got, Abe? The guy I raced in a Tesla, which was at the drag strip, by the way, at US 131, is chiming in. He says that the 7.3 needs an Eaton 2650 supercharger, and I agree. Every engine needs a supercharger, unless you have turbos.
Yeah, turbos, supers, nitrous, it's all good stuff.
How much for that block? Got to go. Have a great time. Thank you for watching, Mike Curtis. We appreciate it. Abe, any more questions?
No, but you have something to give away now.
We do. We'll get to that in a minute. Let's see, how long have we been going?
About 50 minutes.
All right, we got a couple questions here. How much boost could you throw at a fully stock 7.3 crate engine? That's a great question, actually.
And the answer is, I don't know, all right? I think a good test would be, you know, there's two companies out there that make a kit. Pro Charger and Whipple's is Eminent, right? And I would look to those, because if they offer something, they're normally carb certified, so they're going to meet emissions, and they're going to be conservative enough that they're not going to want to blow them apart.
Well, let me re-ask the question.
I would say probably whatever they do plus a couple pounds.
But let me re-ask the question. Because you can arrive at a horsepower level with different boost levels, or nitrous, or NA as far as compression. On a stock short block, what's a safe horsepower level? Have you reached that yet?
No, because again, I'm not like, there's a lot of cool, you know, this to being into like what can I do with a stock short block like the LS guys. Well,
I know, it's always, even to this day, there's guys on the 8.2 Mafia and the 8.2 deck small block Ford page asking that same question that we asked,
right.
and there is no answer to it.
Right, and I'm not the guy looking for that envelope, right? Because to me, you know, take nothing against the LS stock short block guys. I mean, they do some crazy and really cool stuff. But if you've got $20,000 into your heads and valve training, I mean, a set of pistons and rods, $1,500. Why wouldn't you put that in? You know, it just makes. I'm not the guy looking for the end of the envelope when it's going to blow up. I'm kind of the guy that says I want to make sure it's going to be reliable.
Build an engine to do the proper job, just like you would with any mechanical thing. You don't run any mechanical thing at the limit, right? So why run an engine at the limit as far as like what's the max power before it'll kick the rods out?
Yeah. Now I will say, to try to give some answers, when I do the engines that we sell to customers, what I say is if you're going to go above 6,500 RPM on a regular basis, I would really like to change pistons and rods. If you're going to go beyond 750 to 800 horsepower with boost and keep the RPM low, you know, I still want to change pistons and rods. So and the reason I say I don't know if those are the limits, those are where I would feel comfortable.
Okay. DJ Henderlong asks a pretty good question.
Really?
Yeah. Can you
Okay.
touch on the commonality of parts with the 7.3 rod bearing size, cam bearing, and bell housing bolt pattern? Great question.
Yeah, we know Dave. Dave's a great guy. So, anyways, let me just kind of make sure we hit on all of them. So first, bell housing bolt pattern. So one of the awesome things about Ford, every rear face of block from the 1992, when we did to the AODE,
Right.
to
Oh, you do
the
that on the
Godzilla,
wall here.
yep, to the Godzilla is the same rear face of block. So the only difference being we originally did the 4.6, we had a 6 bolts holding the flywheel on, and they went to an 8. So as soon as they went to 8 bolts, everything's the same. So same flywheel, same bell housing, same everything. So like on the silver car behind us, we pulled a 4.6 valve out and put in that Godzilla. We used that bell housing, that flywheel, you know, the whole setup. The only thing that that might have been different was the throw out there, or the pilot bearing for that. Now as far as bearing sizes, so 6.2, 7.3, same main bearing. So like when I started Build Motors, they already had performance bearings for the 6.2, I did that. The rod bearings are the same as a Coyote modular, they're all that 8.02 Gerald diameter. So the cool thing, the parts were there. What they didn't have was ARP fasteners yet, anything there. So we went and we had some fasteners made for both the cylinder heads and the mains that give about 15% more flat load than stock.
All right. Max displacement. Somebody asked about max displacement.
Well, I think we've swung we were on aluminum rods in the blower motors, and I didn't have to notch anything. So I'm thinking you can probably go 4 1/4 to 430 something stroke on these things, and people will push it further than that. So when you say max, it depends on who's going to do it.
Can you get to 500 cubic inches?
You can get awfully close. I think you get 4. I think
Okay.
I think the way that I was going to do one would have been like 497 or something.
That's the magical number that people are going to want.
Mhm.
I have a 500 cubic inch
Small block.
a small block. And then I think we have another question about the physical weight compared to other Ford blocks.
Okay, I think we did a video on that.
Yes,
I don't
we did.
remember the numbers off the top of my head, but there's something like this. We weighed a Coyote, and I think it was about 405 pounds or something.
430, I think, for a.
Was it that
I
much?
think for a dressed Coyote is about.
Well, no, I'm talking, we weighed them here all equal.
Oh yeah.
Remember when we did the
Yes, we do.
equal? So yeah, didn't have none of them had exhaust manifolds, no front and accessory drives.
Right.
And I think the Coyote was on the order of just 440X, 400 something. Then we did a 351, and I think that was with aluminum heads, Ford Motorsport block, and I want to say that was in the, wasn't it like 450, 460 range?
Yeah, I want to think it was somewhere right in there. It was heavier than a Coyote.
Oh, yeah,
maybe
wow.
100 pounds or something.
Yeah.
Somewhere around there.
And then we weighed this engine, and again, this was I think another 40 or 50 pounds over the over the 351 Motorsport.
Right, but compared to a 460, unless you're using an aftermarket big head on your 460, this is probably a better head with a more stable valve train, not as many intake options for carburation, but obviously more for EFI, and a way better block.
Oh yeah, I'd definitely say that. But the other thing is, you could buy some of that 460, 385 series stuff pretty inexpensively. I think you could build up,
Right.
750 horsepower, 514 pretty reasonably, probably
Yeah.
under 10 grand.
And a lot of the comments that we got on some of the videos when we did any kind of comparison, especially to the Coyote, we got a lot of hate from Coyote guys in a sense of why would you not just put a blower on a Coyote? And let's face it, why would you do anything in life? Why do you wear a blue shirt or a red one? It's awesome to have options. I don't want to do the same thing that everybody else is doing. Plus, this is new, so like we did in the 5-liter days, it's exciting to take a brand new platform and see what it can do.
Yeah, and the thing I'll say, all I can say is, when was there a better time to be a Ford performance enthusiast to have these two great choices to choose from? If you,
Yep.
you know, if you get by, you know, a new Mustang with a Coyote based engine, why would you take that out and put this in? I don't know why you would. I mean,
Right.
Coyote engines are freaking awesome, and you know, proven commodities over, you know, 1100 horsepower. Like you said, Ken at Palm Beach Dyno hasn't gotten into. I don't think he's gotten into even changing cylinder heads on the GT500. Has been up, you know, 1,500 horsepower.
Yeah, a lot of these guys have been in well into the 14 and 1500 horsepower zone. And aside from the Coyote being very wide, which does make it difficult to put in some cars, this is a narrower engine. There is finally a lot of oil pan options. Maybe we should talk about putting this in cars, what needs to be done next. But it's just cool to have options and to have a guy like Brian who's willing to dive in, be the first guy to do it. We've got a lot of companies now that we've mentioned already diving into the 7.3 stuff, but it's just great to have options, man. I don't want to eat a steak every night.
I don't know. That's
Steak is pretty good. I retract my statement
Yeah,
because I could eat a steak or Italian food pretty much any day of the week.
absolutely.
So
Yeah.
before
Fly
we
would
do
be good
that-
every night.
Before we do that, why don't we roll the thing around and give everybody a look at the bottom end with the
Okay.
caps.
Okay.
Let's slide the table back, let's go, and then we'll give you guys a look at the bottom end. I don't know how we're gonna do this, but we're gonna do it just like that, turn the engine.
3.5 do it.
Well, go the other way, so it's right to the camera.
Can you how's it look?
That should be fine.
We're on a delay, that's pretty good right there. So,
LAs, you know, I can't mention them enough because, you know, they jumped on this thing kind of right from the get-go. You know, the first with cam offerings, then with connecting rods, then valve springs, and you know, then you know, now with these with the cap offerings. So you know, they've just, you know, really taken to the platform and really wanted to be one of the leaders in there with the product line they offer.
So aside from being steel, why don't we talk people through why you would, first of all, why would you change from a stock main cap to an aftermarket steel? And then what are some of the design improvements in this cap that makes it better than stock?
Yeah, well, one of the features I do like, and I'll point to it because it'd be hard to see, but on both sides of the cap, one of the things I really like is if you ever had to pull the stock caps out, you know, on a deep skirt block to crank in it, it's pretty difficult to get it out.
Right.
They have the little feature where you put a screwdriver on both sides and pop these out. I think their production unit is, they're gonna keep those and maybe even add a hole in the center with threaded so you can use a slide hammer.
Right.
Engine builders
Everybody's
put
over
that.
there, I already know.
Yeah, so, so that's one of the features. And again, this is just gonna be a lot stronger, and again, we're always, you know, looking to make more horsepower at these. I don't know where the limit is with the stock caps. Maybe it's gonna be just fine, but again, I'm not looking to find the limit and blow it up. I'm trying to make it stronger and better when I think it's gonna be needed. And you know, we're gonna be trying to push, you know, 1,800 plus horsepower this year, so we thought trying this cap would be a good move.
Yeah, make stronger is better in this case, right?
Yep.
As long as we got that apart, should we bring over that whole oil pump assembly? Or is that gonna be a nightmare?
I think
We going too far?
maybe going too far. I think we need.
Save that for the next time.
Yeah, I think people need to leave, if you could help us with comments and that, and
Oh, yeah,
maybe
type of
notes,
comments.
maybe notes to you on, you know, what they'd like us to dive into.
All right, so Andrew, my man Andrew Borelli asked a question. He's a pretty smart guy when it comes to racing and Ford stuff. So he asks, and this is going to be a question for you. Why did Ford stay with 10 head bolts? Would it have been easy to do a design? Would it have been easy to do while designing a new block? Essentially putting more head bolts in.
Well, the only thing I'll say on that is, show me another stock block in production today that doesn't use 10 head bolts. Okay, and again, not trying to be cute, right? But yeah, if it was, you know, and I asked the guys the question, can we make this, you know, a 6 head bolt thing? And it was going to be a lot more effort because it tore through the valve train and everything else.
Right.
And then they gave it back to me because you gotta remember I was a director. I'm asking them questions. Well, why are you doing this if these guys don't need it?
Right.
And they looked at me and said, "Your boss, Gen 3 Hemi, LS, they're all 10 bolt. And Chevy went from the 5 head bolt on their small block to 10 like us. So why do you want us to add more cost and complexity to our production engine that seals just fine? And to their credit, I mean, this is a stock head casting, so this isn't like a race casting with thick combustion chambers, thick
Right.
decks. With a stock head gasket with our head bolts, we made, with running water, without a dry deck, we made, 1,700 horsepower
Right.
and sealed.
Well, so to build on what Andrew asked, because I think this is important, when he asks a question like that, there's a guy that's been around the 5-liter days,
Mhm.
been around racing a long time, and used to dealing with small block Ford,
Mhm.
Windsor-based engines.
Mhm.
Is the machining techniques, the materials, the thickness and the design of this block and head,
Mhm.
does it make it better or seal better, even though it still only has 10 head bolts?
Well, this definitely seals better than any 302 or 351 ever thought of sealing, I'll tell you that.
Right.
Maybe
So,
you're never gonna get 1,700 horsepower of a stock Windsor block.
right.
head.
So the Achilles heel is not the 10 head bolts; it's really the design of the older engine.
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
and the manufacturing methods. Now, again, my X275 stuff, yeah, we had added, we had, the head bolts on that, so the one head bolt, went through the intake port, and you had plugs that you had to go down to get
It's a
that one.
nightmare.
And the one at 6 o'clock, you had to use a crow's foot on a torque wrench to get that one. So yeah, it could have been designed in, but you're gonna have the same issues of tearing the thing up. I mean, again, this is a production truck motor rated at 430
Right.
horsepower.
Ford's designing it to make 400 and 500 horsepower, not 1,700. So not that they don't care, but they're building it within their design parameters.
Great.
A very important comment from my man Paul Gunther: I vote steak every night.
I'm with them.
Red meat.
Yep, red meat, eat more red meat.
Yep. We did have cheeseburgers for lunch. So-
Royce.
From Roy's local joint here in Milan. Very good. I highly recommend it next time you're in Milan. We're pretty close to Milan, Michigan, out by the drag strip. Let's see if we got some more questions. Let's see here. I see Alyssa chiming in. Hello. How are you? Coming from Louisiana. We got, let's see, Gurney for President says hello all. We got to forget about it. Somebody dropped the forget about it on us.
On you.
On me, yeah, I guess so.
All right.
All right. Oh, somebody wants to know if the cat is going to star in the live feed. That would probably be Ralphie the cat.
Ralphie the cat, yeah. Ralphie the cat's pretty cool.
Maybe we'll have to bring him next time.
Yeah, he might be a little camera. Well, he does like looking at Pinterest with Nancy. He
Does he?
Yeah, he does enjoy that. Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah, he likes watching.
Ralphie's awesome. Let's see. You're welcome, Andrew. No problem. Fat Boy Fox says, "What's up, everybody? What's up?"
All right, we better get the questions as opposed to reading the
All right.
comments.
What do we got? We got any more questions?
Because if not, then we're probably.
Oh, here's one. Do you see a nice race single plane intake being cast anytime soon?
I'm hoping.
Okay. There are a couple of intakes. Should we bust out the Danbury?
Sure.
All right. I put
Well,
right on the
Josh-
spot. We're putting Josh to work. He's going to get the Danbury intake. Maybe we'll move the head out of the way. At least that with the intake. Let's see what else we're cooking with here. I'm still trying to figure out my wife's Dancing with the Stars reference. I don't know what that's all about. Nobody wants to see me ballroom dance. It's a terrible thing
now.
for me.
I don't want to listen myself for an hour.
Would love to see this motor in a drift car. Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. Let's see here. Boom!
Boom.
How
there it
about
is.
that? There's some fun stuff.
Okay, so you asked for a cast single plane, but this is a fabricated, a company that reached out to us probably beginning of this year, Danbury Competition Engines in Connecticut. They wanted to expand their product line, and they came up with a really nice intake manifold that fits under the hood of a stock box body. We run a variation of this on our twin turbo car. And we'll make this with a very short runner, as short as what you see here.
Right.
This one, we actually have it extended into the plenum for just a little bit more low end torque.
Right, with a trumpet that sits
Yep.
inside. We looked in there before.
Yeah, with the trumpet. So yeah, the available Danbury Competition Engines in Connecticut. If you're looking for something, they have it. And I think we've probably sold about 5 of these on
That's
customer
cool.
motors.
And then we gotta give some love to Indie Power Products.
Yep, Indie Power Products. Can you grab the Josh Indie Power Products gas intake?
I'll move this one out of the way.
Yep.
You can entertain everybody for a minute.
All right. So Indie Power Products, they also have a cast intake, but it's a dual plane. But it's a pretty short runner dual plane, and that does extend the power peak up in the 6,200 RPM range. They also offer an oil pan system,
Okay. So we'll do this
front and
one.
accessory drive
We can give it a thank you, by the
system,
way.
which is very, very compact.
Just like Josh picked.
We've used that in quite a few customer motors as well. Nice thing about that is it was designed with the aftermarket in mind. And what I mean by that is it uses a standard one-wire alternator, uses AC compressor that's compatible with vintage air system, and the power steering pump is also, you can change the valving in it to accommodate many different types of steering gears. So yeah, they got some good stuff.
We got a question here about oiling. Let's see. What controls the oil pump pressure modulation on the 7.3?
And again, it's a variable displacement pump, so we're not, we're really looking to control flow through there, and it's an eccentric system so that it's it changes the actual displacement of the pump, and it's just a small control circuit. So you've got oil that feeds to one side or the other to control where it regulates the flow, the pump flow, gallons per minute.
All right, so while we're waiting for the intake manifold, which is not going to make it because it's bolted to an engine.
No, okay.
All right,
I'll
so,
be right back.
Brian's going to go inspect. So I'm going to entertain you with some ballroom. I'm not going to ballroom dance. Let's see. We'll see what comments and questions we got on.
Somebody did ask earlier, what happened to the LX 5.0 project?
The LX 5.0 project got taken over by our buddy John, and we will have an update on that car. Give me 2 weeks to 3 weeks. 2 weeks, we'll have an update on that car. And through the magic of Brian,
He ripped it right off that engine.
Yeah,
I don't know how you unbolted it that quick, but
hey, sometimes you gotta do things between rounds quick.
exactly. So let's see, before we jump on this intake, Ramon Tubbs, hello from the ATL, how are you? Let's see, Uncle Tony's Garage, what's up guys? Mad props to Tony, we love you, and it's always cool.
Legend.
Tony is a legend. Throw a shout out to Uncle Tony's Garage. If you guys want some cool YouTube content, go over and check out Uncle Tony's Garage. Tony DeFeo doing fantastic stuff, building cars, throwing it old school, going to the track, talking about how to build Mopar engines and buy muscle cars, and he's the real deal for sure. Couple other quick things on here. Let's see. I think the Dancing with the Stars comment was a response to Living Legends. Oh God. Somebody's asking about the 6.8. Again, I know Brian's not going to want to comment on that. And my personal feeling is I don't know that that's even happening. I think that was like a lot of internet.
What was the question?
The 6.8 version of that thing?
Well, no, there's a release that was done by Ford and a press conference that was done.
Well, the truck though, but people are talking like it's going in a Mustang.
No, I'll comment on that because again, I've been retired since 17, so it's my opinion, not official information. But you gotta think about it, right? I mean, Ford announced it going into the truck. When the union spokesman was talking, at the same plant they make this engine, they also make the Coyote. So I think he was more referring to engines made at the plant because he was talking about a union and jobs,
Right.
not necessarily where it was going. So I don't think you'll see this in a Mustang. Again, why would you put it in over the Coyote that weighs 100 and some pounds less, and you got a world in that car is a world release vehicle all over the planet. So
Not to mention the car is already designed for a cooling system,
Right.
wiring, air conditioning. You literally have to reconfigure the exhaust and every other component under the hood to swap in an engine that's heavier and really doesn't make any more power.
yeah, so I can't see Ford doing that. I think it'd be a bad move.
Me neither. All right, let's talk intake manifolds. We already showed you the Danbury.
Right. Yeah, so this is Indie Power Products. This is a dual plane intake, but because, as I mentioned, you got kind of pretty short runners. When we run this, we typically lose versus a stock intake, 40-ish foot-pounds of torque, 40, maybe 50. But with that, this set our built engines, we're still making 550 foot-pounds of torque, like from, 3,000 RPM up.
Right.
And, this will push a power peak up to about 6,300 RPM.
And it gives you an option for locating the throttle body here, or using an elbow, or some other fabricated piece if you wanted to run boost or something like that. Again, it's all about options, and some people won't care about the loss of power. They'll want it for the look, because you'd be able to run a conventional air cleaner.
Oh, this is for a nostalgia build, this is awesome.
Yeah, it's a neat looking piece.
Yeah.
Very high quality.
Yes. So my only thought here, I've been going about an hour and 15 minutes.
Yep, we should probably consider wrapping it up. We got to figure out how we're going to give away. Let me get the connecting rod.
Yep. And I think that would really help is for, you may want to talk content on future live YouTubes.
Yep.
People got to give you that feedback. They may want to be talking about coyotes. You may want to be talking about, FR500Ss and all kinds of stuff. So you need to give that feedback so you can give them what they want. We want to talk control systems.
Yeah, so really what it boiled, you just said it. So if you don't mind dropping us a comment, we would love, we appreciate all the comments tonight, and I think we had a great conversation with everybody. We appreciate it. Not only you watching, subscribing, but interacting with us, which is really what we wanted to do tonight, because we've done a ton of videos, we've got some great response, but we haven't really interacted with the audience. So tonight was really all about interacting with you guys and, letting you ask questions, showing you some neat stuff that you don't maybe get to see on a regular basis, giving you a look at the shop. But we'd love to know what you want to see in the future. So continue the comments, shoot us a question. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't. Check out some of our other videos, maybe the things that you've talked about, especially if you're new to the channel, because we really have been covering 7.3, Coyote. We have the Cyclone build. A few people asked about our Cyclone build that we're putting a 7.3 in. We've got Josh's twin turbo Mustang. This car behind us will be in the BorgWarner booth at the PRI show. So if you're going to be at PRI, you can come by and look at Brian's work and Team Z's work, and the guys from OBR, what they've done with this car, and ask questions. Brian will be there. I'll be at the PRI show. We'll be talking about Drag Racing Edge magazine at the show. So you can come by and see me, and hopefully we'll have some copies to hand out. You can subscribe to that. Abel will be with me at the show. And man, this has been a fun hour.
It has. Went by quick.
We got one last thing to do, is to give this connecting rod away. We gave the blower belt away already. Dan Grippo, I think, won that.
You gotta give them an email address, so whoever wins.
I know Dan.
Oh, yeah, okay.
But I don't know who's going to win this. So where's Josh? All right, Abe.
Where's Josh?
How about we bring in Oli and
Why don't we do another question?
Well, or we could do that.
Yeah, we can bring Oli in real quick. We still got, over 100 people watching.
Okay.
We'll introduce Oli.
Okay.
You know what? I'm going to give up my spot.
No, I'm gonna give my spot.
Yeah, all right, come on in, Oli.
No, I don't.
Or you come on in here too.
Go ahead, go on in. Here.
These are the guys from OBR, and currently, it's very important because they make a plug-and-play system for the 7.3. One of the biggest things about any engine swap, especially when you have EFI running the motor, is how am I going to make the engine run? You're going to have controls for fuel injection and timing and spark and all the other things that go along with EFI. So these guys make a plug-and-play, fantastic system, easy to operate. They're going to walk us through the build with our Cyclone, right?
That's right.
And they're going to help us get it running. So we'll show you from stem to stern how that happens. And they've been working all day on Josh's car behind us. Josh being Brian's son. And that thing's been pretty neat. It does some funky stuff. We'll show you the lights. I think you can probably see behind me. But guys, real quick, talk to us about OBR. What does OBR stand for? And how can they learn more by going on the interwebs?
So OBR is Onboard Control Systems.
We do a lot of OEM stuff. Most of it is so secret we're not even allowed to tell who we work for.
Mm-hmm.
Then we do racing and a lot of street stuff, drag racing, circle track, rally. Yeah.
A lot of 24 hours of Daytona stuff, boat stuff, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Super duper high-end NORAD, DEFCON 5 kind of stuff going on with these guys. But the system is fantastic. They also have a body control system that that's what they've been working on all day in this car, so you can run the whole car off of the body control system. Forget about it, it's totally cool. Justin, I'm not doing walking in this video. He wants me to do Christopher Walken.
Here's something.
I'm not doing it. I'm not. But go ahead. So this is Ollie and this is Johan. These guys are they're not from America.
Nope, we are from Denmark.
Yep, we brought them in special.
Hey, look behind you for a sec. Do that again.
Let's check it out.
That's
Wait.
pretty cool.
There we go. So you can do all kinds of fun stuff with the lights. You can control basically anything in the car. Power windows, fuel pumps. There's 34 channels. Did I get that right? 34 channels that you can set different things up with. And it works in unison with the engine controller.
It controls every module in the car.
Yeah, so that's really cool. Brian,
CAN
what?
bus.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
And CAN bus.
CAN bus?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, so you gotta have the CAN bus. How does it, real quick, how does that differ from a typical system that you'd see in a car just with relays and, you know, a switch panel or ignition switch type stuff?
So there's no relays, there's no fuses. Everything can switch extremely fast. A relay is fairly slow compared to this electronics.
Right?
We can swap plus and minus in the box, make a motor turn one way, the other way for windows, seat that goes back and forth. Everything is current controlled, so you get a warning saying low current, high current, lower fuse if needed,
Right?
and reset it from a single button or however you want to do it. Anything is possible, more or less.
And it measures the current from every single circuitry that's in use.
Unbelievable. All right, Abe, Brian, let me bring Brian back in here because we're gonna, I think, wrap things up. It's been a long day for us. We're over an hour. It's been a really fun, and I've had a fun time. Hope you guys have had a fun time.
Had a great time.
Awesome. Abe, bring it in. Bring it in, Abe. We'll show you the whole crew. Josh, come on.
Nope.
We got our production team. We got Abe. There's Josh back there. We got to give away the connecting rod. I'm gonna put that on you.
On me?
Yeah, you and Josh. How are we giving it away?
I don't know.
Oh wait, I know how we're gonna do it.
All right, Brian.
The last Jay's getting it.
Jay, the last comment, Jay. There you go. You just picked the name. Jay is gonna get the comment. So Jay, you're gonna have to send me an
Jay
email.
Longton.
Jay Longton, you won the connecting rod. And next time we do this, we'll always give away some stuff. Jay, you're just gonna have to reach out to me somehow. You can reach me at my Evan at Drag Racing Edge Magazine email.
So how spell that out? Real slow.
EVAN at dragracingedge.com. That's my work email for the magazine. If you email me there, I will send you the connecting rod. He's signing it right now. Abe, what do you say? We rock it out?
I think we're good.
All right, guys. So once again, thanks everybody for checking out our channel. It's you guys that make this thing really possible. And woo!
Yep. Hey, thanks Phil. Thanks for calling or listening and spending an hour and a half with us. We appreciate it.
Yeah. All right, guys. We'll check you later. Stay tuned for more great stuff at the REVan channel. Have a great night.